Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Caro and today we're going to be working on a request. As you can see from the screen, a one shoulder dress, mermaid dress. Basically, we're working on the upper side of the dress. I have a video on a mermaid skirt. So with the combination of the mermaid skirt at the top, you'll be able to make this dress. So because we're helping out on this project, we're going to be using some of these scraps that I have, the scrap lace, leftover materials, the lace, the satin. Then there's something I need to let you guys know why bringing this in. You can see that the color of the satin is a little bit different from the lace itself. So when I want to achieve the actual color of the satin to the lace, what I normally do is to place a net, the color of the net, exact color of the net. I place it on the satin, then before I place the lace on it, so that by the time I want to sew it, it will blend together. If you can see it, you will see that it blends together. But if you use the lace itself on the satin, it will give you another color. It will give you the color of the satin. So to achieve such results, you just use your nets first, then you place your lace on top of it, then you bast it together, then you'll be able to achieve the result of what you are looking for. So to get started, we're going to draft the pattern first, then show the process of the sewing, especially she wants the funnel side, how to achieve that result. So guys, I hope you will follow through to the end. If you are new to my channel, you're highly welcome. For my old subscriber, thank you guys for always being there. So guys, let's get started with the pattern first, then we'll go to the sewing part of it. So getting started with the pattern drafting, I've measured from the top edge of my paper 2 inches, then from the side 1 inch, marking it proportionately. So the next thing is to mark our full front length, which I have marked here, which is 16 and a half inches. So I'm going to square it out. So this is the full front length. The next thing to mark now is using our bust measurement. We divide it into two and add about 3 to 4 inches allowance to it. And if your pattern drafting cannot be enough, you can just divide your bust into two. So mine is 34. The measurement I'm using is written on the screen. So I'm going to divide my 34 into 2, which is 17 inches. So 17 plus 3, making it 20 inches. So I'm going to mark 20 inches and square up. Then I'm going to divide it into two. So one side will be for the front, then one side will be for the back. For this particular dress, looking closer to the side, princess seam was used. You can also use a full shoulder um, pattern drafting to draft for this side, but I'm going to use princess seam, so that's what I'm going to do. So after marking for the full front length and dividing our bust into two plus the allowance, the next thing to mark is our back length. So my back length is 15, so I'm going to mark the back length on one side of the pattern that I've divided. Okay, so this is the difference between the back and the front length. Now this is from there to here is what we call the nap to waist measurement. So I'll place pictures on the screen so that you guys can understand quickly. So after marking this, the next thing I'm going to mark, I'm not going to use any formula on this pattern draft. I'm going to use, everything I'm going to use is going to be from the body measurement. So my armhole circumference is what I'm going to use, which is 15 inches on this particular measurement. So dividing it into two, I'm going to have 7.5 inches. So I'm going to use it as my armhole depth. So I will mark and square out. So the next thing to mark for the front side, let me label it. This is the center front, this is the center back. So the next thing to mark is what we call the bust depth, which is 9.5 inches for this particular client or this particular measurement. So I'll mark 9.5. Then the under bust is 12.5. So I'll mark 12.5. So 9.5, 12.5. So the next thing to mark is what we call the shoulder. So my shoulder here is 14. So divide into 2 is 7 inches. So I'm going to square it out. Okay. So I'm achieving results. So for my front, 1.5 inch shoulder slope. Then from this point, there's what we call the shoulder to neck point, which is 4 3/4. From here to here is 4 3/4, which is called the shoulder to neck point. The picture is on the screen, so that's what I'm marked. So what is left now is for my neck circumference, so which is 2.5 inches. Then from that point, my neck depth I'm going to mark is 2.5 plus half an inch will make it 3. So I'm going to now draw my neck circumference. I'll connect the neck. Okay, so I'll connect my shoulder slope. Okay, so to mark my armhole circumference, I'm going to move up from the armhole depth 2.5 to 3 inches. I'll move 2.5 on this case. Then I will mark what we call the across front. So I'm going to mark the across front now, which is 13 inches, which is divided into 2. I'm going to have a 6.5. So now I'm going to mark my bust circumference, which is 34. 34 divided by 4, we have 8.5. So I'll mark that here. Then I'll connect. Okay, so the next thing to mark is what we call the bust span, which is the dart, which is 7 inches divided into 2, which is 3.5. So I'm going to mark that here. Okay, so I'm going to move 3/4 inches down. Okay, now I'm going to transfer this measurement, this bust that I divided into 4. I'm going to transfer it to the waist. So I'm going to connect. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to mark my waist measurement. Whatever is left from the waist measurement is what I'm going to divide in between the dart legs and the side seam. Waist measurement here is 27 divided by 4 is 6 3/4. So I'm going to mark 6 3/4. So what is left here is 1 3/4 inches. So I'm going to divide the 1 3/4 inches into 3, 2 for here and 1 for here. But I'm going to take more for the dart leg. So I'm going to use 1.5 inches. So I'm going to be left with just 1/4 of an inch. So I'm dividing 1.5 into 2. I'm going to have 3/4 on this side and 3/4 on this side. So I'm going to connect to the bust depth area, as you can see. Okay, so I'll take care of the back now. So the back, I'm going to mark 14 inches, which is 7, 7, So the 7 inches I marked is the shoulder divided into 2, which is 14 divided into 2, 7. Then I brought it down to the armhole depth. So for the back, the shoulder strip is 1 inch from the neck point, the shoulder neck point. So from that point, I'm going to mark the 4 3/4. Then from this point, I'm going to move 1 inch up, or 3/4 inch. I'm going to just move 3/4 inch up. For a plus size and a medium size, you can move 1 inch. But this is a small size, so you just move 3/4 inch up. Connect my neck points, okay? So I'll mark the dart legs. So the dart is 7 inches, which is the bust span divided into 2. 7 divided into 2 is 3.5. So I'll mark. I'll connect my points. I'll move my 8.5, which is bust divided into 4. Move it down. So after marking our bust for the back, which will mark the 8.5 inches, the next thing is to divide what is left at the armhole depth after subtracting our shoulder strip, which was 1 inch. So whatever is left, you divide into 2, and we mark. Then we'll mark what we call the across back. The across back seam is 13 inches, so I'm going to mark 6.5. Then will connect my armhole for the back, aligning my French curve, as you can see. Okay, guys, so we'll finish with the armhole circumference for the back and for the front. So the next thing is to confirm if it's up to 15. So you quickly do that to make sure you don't have more or less. That's 7.5. So take 7.5 and both same this way. Confirm for the back. So we have exactly 15 inches. So guys, we're through with that. The next thing is to divide our dart leg. Remember, we marked our waist for the front 6 3/4. So we'll do the same thing for the back. We'll mark our 6 3/4. Then what is left is 1 3/4 inches. So the 1 3/4 inches for the back, we're going to divide it into 4. 1 for the side seam, 2 for the dart leg, then 1 for the hollow of the back. So I'm going to use ½ inch for this for the hollow of the back. Mark ½ inch, then ½ inch for the dart leg for the back. So invariably we have used 1.5. So whatever is left is 1/4 inch. So we'll mark the 1/4 inch here, just for as it is for the front. So we'll connect to the bust line, which is the same thing as the armhole depth. Okay, so that is that. We're almost through with our basic pattern. Now, if you have watched my previous tutorial, I said you should mark ½ inch here. Reason for this ½ inch is if you don't mark you did not measure your shoulder back correctly, because we use shoulder back. If you don't mark your shoulder back correctly, you mark ½ inch here. Then you connect. I will place the diagram on the screen so that you guys can see. You place it here. But if you take your measurement correctly, there's no need for this. So I just decided to indicate this, but it's not necessary actually what we are doing, but just to mention it on this tutorial. So whatever is left is the difference between the front and the back, which is the 1.5 inches. We're going to convert into our bust dart. Now this point here is what we call the push-up. We call it push-up or the back leg diagram. I'm placing it on the screen so that you guys can see. So from this point, I'm going to connect the dart leg up. Okay, so we're through with the back for now. Then what is left here, the 1.5, I'm going to convert it into a bust dart. So converting it, I'm going to measure 2.5 inches down. Okay, then from that place, from the 2.5 that I marked, the 1.5 inches difference of the front and the back, I'm going to divide it into three. So I'm going to 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to connect to the bust depth, connect to the bust depth as you can see, then connect the down one to the bust depth as you can see. Then this measurement, we'll measure it to be able to draw our dark leg properly. So what we have here now is 5.2. So I'm going to swing my tape up to mark my 5.2. So I'll mark the 5.2 inches, then I'll connect it to create my dart leg properly. Okay, okay guys. So that's what we have there. We are through with our basic pattern. This is the front and this is the back. So what we're going to do now is to create the princess seam from this basic pattern. So the princess seam comes from the armhole. Now for the back, we're going to use it like that for the dress that we are making. But for this, I'm just going to create the princess seam, close up with that. Then we have our pattern to cut our dress. So the next thing is to create our princess seam. As you can see from the pattern, I've retraced it with a marker to make it clearer to you guys. So to mark the princess seam from the basic pattern, what I need to do is from the bust depth, I'm going to move 1/2 inch up, which I've already done. From that 2.5 inches we moved up while we're creating our armhole circumference. From the 2.5 inches, so I'm just going to use my pencil as a free hand to connect to that 1/2 inch that I moved here, moved up from the bust depth, to connect to that point, to smoothen it. Because sometimes if you use ruler, it doesn't give you the actual thing you need. So you use your free hand to connect this point. Then from this point now, the 2.5, you move up by 1 inch. You move 1 inch up, then from that 1 inch, you connect to this line that we have created. So you use your free hand to still connect from that point to create your princess seam. So you have a smooth line which you can use your ruler to connect it, as you can see. So as you can see, we have connected it. Now for the under bust and the waistline, to tighten it to create a good breast curve, depends on an individual. So for this princess cut, what I'm going to do, so that you'll be able to know how to handle it, because it's not everybody that can handle that. So this 3/4 inch that was marked here, I will do the same thing on the under bust. Mark the 3/4 inch here, mark the 3/4 inch here, then connect it on a straight line, connect on a straight line. Okay, as you can see, then use my hand to seal, my free hand to still smoothen it. As you can see, then you still use smoothing method to connect it. But if I want it to tighten more, I will just use, I will remove 1 inch from my bust span that I divided. But for this dress, this is okay. For making a bridal, we would have gone in further. Let me use my marker so that you guys can see. Then from this point, from this armhole, you move out by 3/4 inch or 1 inch, depending on what you want. This is just so the gaping that is going to happen here, so that you'll be able to cover it up when you sew. We're through with the front, as you can see. For the back, like I said, you can use it this way, but if you want a princess, you do the same thing. From the point we divided to create our arm of circumference, just take it from that point. Use your free hand. It enables you to smoothen it. Then move 3/4 inch down. You want a princess cut, but if not, that is okay. Then you, from that point, you join it to this same line, not getting up to this point. So let me use mine. But for this particular style, we're just going to use our darts. So the next thing is to cut it out. We're going to cut it out, fold our bust darts, then it opens up the princess seam. Then we'll add our allowance, then cut on a fold of paper, so to enable us recut the main style. Then before we cut on our material. So guys, I finished cutting the pattern, as you can see. So what we are going to do now is to add sewing allowance to it. I'm going to add ½ inch to the shoulder. I'm going to add ½ inch to the princess seams. Then I'm going to add 1½ inches to the sewing allowance, 1½ inch. Then for the zip allowance, 1½ inch. Then to the shoulder, ½ inch. So then we'll place on a fold of a paper, gum it together, then record the necklines, then we'll now start the sewing. But I will do that in the next tutorial.